In the days before the flood, beings walked the earth who were not fully human. They were called the Nephilim, and they were born from a union that was never meant to happen. They grew much larger and stronger than ordinary men, and their presence could not be ignored. When people saw them, they felt small and powerless. The Nephilim took what they wanted and lived without limits. Their time on earth marked the beginning of the world's downfall. In the generations before the Great Flood, early humans lived in a world overseen by heavenly guardians known as the Watchers. These were angels appointed to watch over humanity and guide them. But in the days of Jared, something went terribly wrong. A group of 200 of these Watchers gazed down upon the earth and became captivated by the beauty of mortal women. Instead of protecting humanity as they were meant to, they conspired together to abandon their posts and take human wives for themselves. Their leader, Semjaza, worried that only he would bear the blame for this sin, so he gathered the others on the summit of Mount Hermon to swear an oath together. Bound by this pact on the mountaintop, all 200 agreed they would descend to earth. Each angel would choose a woman, and they would all share responsibility for whatever followed. High above in heaven, this betrayal was not yet openly punished. The Watchers still possessed their free will, and for a time their bold plan remained unchecked. One quiet evening, under the shimmering stars, the Watchers made their descent. They left their heavenly posts and stepped onto the earth in the guise of radiant beings. Some came in secret, and others appeared openly, but all carried an aura of otherworldly splendor. Humans who encountered them were awestruck. The Watchers did not arrive as terrifying monsters. Instead, they appeared beautiful and noble, with an almost gentle demeanor at first. Villagers saw these visitors as wise teachers or even as gods because of their majestic presence. The angels' faces shone and their voices were soft and persuasive. No one suspected the true intent hidden behind their calm smiles. The Watchers spoke kind words and offered gifts of knowledge, ingratiating themselves with the people. Soon, they began to fulfill the purpose of their pact. Each Watcher set his eyes on a woman whom he desired. One by one, the Watchers took wives from among the daughters of men. Some women were willingly drawn to these godlike beings, mesmerized by their charisma and promises. Other unions may have been taken by force or through deception. The stories would later tell of angels who defiled themselves with mortal women. Either way, this was a great violation of the natural order. These unions between heavenly beings and human women were forbidden, but for a while, life continued quietly. The Watchers stayed with their human wives, and the women conceived children. In those early days, perhaps there was a semblance of peace. The humans might have even celebrated the presence of these powerful angelic husbands, not realizing the consequences that would soon come. The earth itself, however, felt a growing unease. High above, God watched with sorrow and anger at how his appointed guardians had betrayed their trust. In time, the women whom the Watchers had taken began to give birth. These were no ordinary babies. They were the Nephilim, the offspring of mortal women and immortal angels. From the moment of birth, it was clear these children were different. They grew unnaturally large and strong, far surpassing the stature of any human. As boys, they towered over grown men. As they reached maturity, they became true giants. In height and might, none could rival them. Villagers would watch in astonishment and growing fear as a young Nephilim child shot up like a cedar tree, his appetite voracious and his strength impossible to control. By the time these hybrids reached adulthood, they were colossal, giants that could uproot trees and lift boulders as toys. At first, people may have tried to accommodate these giants, even admire them. The Nephilim were seen by some as demigods or mighty heroes of old. Legends grew around their exploits, tales of superhuman strength, hunting prowess, and fearless courage. Some Nephilim perhaps protected villages from wild beasts or helped in great building tasks thanks to their strength. In those early days, humans might have revered them, naming them in songs and stories as the mighty ones of ancient times. The Watchers, proud of their children, likely encouraged humans to honor them. Fathers like Semjaza and the others looked upon their half-angelic sons with pride, as they were more powerful than any mere human. For a while, it seemed these giants might rule as benevolent kings or heroes. Their presence changed society. People organized themselves around these formidable beings, sometimes even worshipping them as divine kings. However, as the Nephilim grew in number and power, their true nature began to reveal itself. These giants carried not only the physical might of their angelic heritage, but also a destructive hunger and arrogance. They were violent and destructive individuals who had no regard for life. The Nephilim saw themselves as superior to all other creatures. Normal human laws or moral restraints did not bind them. Why should they, who were half-divine, submit to the rules of mere mortals? With this pride came contempt for lesser beings. The giants began to bully and dominate humans around them. They took whatever their enormous hearts desired. If they fancied the finest livestock, they seized it. If they craved a grand house, they pushed aside whole families to claim it for themselves. Fear of the Nephilim spread among the people. Villagers whispered that these offspring of the Watchers were not saviors at all, but tyrants growing in cruelty. As more of these giants were born across the land, strife followed in their wake. Quarrels and fights broke out, often instigated by the Nephilim's brash tempers. Being virtually unmatched in strength, whenever a giant became angry, the situation turned deadly. It was not uncommon for a Nephilim's outburst of rage to leave broken bodies and demolished homes. The very ground seemed to tremble under their footfalls when they ran or fought. Ordinary humans could hardly stand against them. The world was changing. What was once a peaceful earth under the Watchers' silent protection had transformed into a place where giants roamed and fear ruled the hearts of mankind. During the same time that the Watchers' children were spreading across the earth, the Watchers themselves were introducing new knowledge to humanity. Knowledge that mankind had never been meant to learn too soon. In secret and in the open, these fallen angels taught humans forbidden arts and sciences. They shared secrets that heaven had kept, the knowledge of metalworking, of weapons and war, of magic and sorcery, and of signs in the heavens. One Watcher named Azazel took the lead in this. Azazel revealed the art of crafting swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He showed humans how to mine and smelt the metals of the earth and forge them into tools and weapons. Under his guidance, blacksmiths hammered out the first swords and spears ever known to man. The forge's flames lit up the night as men learned to shape iron and bronze, arming themselves in ways they never had before. Azazel did not stop at weapons. He also taught the adornment of the body, the use of precious stones, dyes, and cosmetics to beautify the eyelids and skin. Human women learned the secrets of makeup and jewelry. They painted their faces with antimony, a black mineral, to highlight their eyes. They crafted lovely bracelets and ornaments. What once were plain humans now became enticed by vanity and lust, decorating themselves in ways that stirred passions and envy. Other Watchers imparted knowledge of spells and enchantments. Semjaza, the leader, taught enchantments and root cuttings, skills that could be used to create potions or cast spells. Another, called Armaros, taught how to undo enchantments. Perhaps the first conflict of sorcerers began there, with knowledge and counter-knowledge of magic. Watcher Barakijal taught humans the secrets of the stars, astrology, reading the constellations for omens. Kokabel taught about the constellations themselves, mapping the heavens. Shamsil taught the course of the sun, and Sariel the phases of the moon. On and on, each rebellious angel shared hidden knowledge about the clouds, the weather, about herbs and plants, and how to use them for medicine or poisons. At first, many of these teachings seemed helpful or enlightening. People learned to farm better with new tools. They made fine clothing and jewelry. They studied the skies and marked the seasons, but this knowledge came at a terrible cost. Humanity was not ready for the power that came with these skills, and the Watchers had given them not out of kindness, but to corrupt and control. Soon, the forbidden knowledge led humans into sin and violence. With weapons of war now in hand, quarrels between villages turned into bloodbaths. Where before maybe two men might brawl with fists over a dispute, now they took up swords and spears, shedding blood easily. Murders and warfare became more common as the proud and strong sought to dominate others. The art of cosmetics and ornamentation fueled lust and vanity. People began to focus on beauty, seduction, and desire above kindness or humility. Some women, empowered by enchantments and allure, enticed men into immoral acts. Some men used their weapons to capture and take whatever women or goods they desired by force. The spells and charms taught by the Watchers led humans into witchcraft and idolatry. People began to use potions and magic to try to bend others to their will or to commune with spirits. In doing so, they drifted further from the righteousness that God had intended for them. The Watchers watched this unfolding chaos with a mix of satisfaction and concern. This was exactly the corruption they had set out to create. Humanity was now mired in godlessness and sin due to their teachings. The pure hearts humans once had were turning dark. The earth was becoming corrupt in every way. The influence of the Watchers touched every aspect of life. If a man tilled the soil, he did so with tools given by rebel angels. If a woman adorned herself, she used secrets from a fallen spirit. If they looked to the stars for guidance, they followed knowledge from those who betrayed heaven. The presence of God in the hearts of mankind grew faint as people turned to these new arts and pleasures. The Watchers themselves, now fully fallen angels, were revered in places as gods or heroes. Temples or monuments might have been raised in honor of these shining ones who brought such knowledge. Humanity was led astray, and most did not even realize it. Amidst this moral decay, a few faithful humans still tried to live righteously. Individuals like Enoch remained loyal to God. Enoch himself, according to tradition, received visions and warnings about these events. But for the majority of mankind, wickedness became a new normal. Violence, greed, lust, and sorcery spread everywhere. The beautiful green earth was now spattered with blood and defiled by idolatries. High above, God saw all of this. Nothing was hidden from his sight. His heart was filled with grief over what his creation had become. The world was racing toward a catastrophe, even if people didn't know it yet. While people were changing inside, the Nephilim were also changing. At first, many humans had looked at them with wonder. They were tall, powerful, and strange, and some people treated them like great heroes. But as time passed, the giants did not live with humility. They began to act like the earth belonged to them. Their size and strength made it easy for them to take control. Soon, whole towns and wide areas were under their rule, not because the people chose it, but because they had no way to resist. The giants demanded food every day. One giant could consume what a village needed for many days. Farmers worked from morning until night, but their harvest did not stay in their own homes. They carried it away as tribute. Herds of animals that once filled the fields became smaller. Grain stores that once lasted through winter began to disappear. The giants wanted the best parts first, and they wanted more than what was fair. Over time, the people who grew the food began to go hungry. Children cried for bread. Parents tried to stretch what little remained. Many families were forced to give away what they needed just to survive another day. As the giants took more, the land itself began to suffer. Fields were overworked. Animals were taken faster than they could be raised. The rhythm of life broke down. Instead of planting with hope, people planted with fear because they already knew who would take the harvest. Many stopped caring for the land with love. Some hid their food in the ground or in caves. Others tried to move away to distant places, hoping to find a quiet corner where the giants would not notice them. But the Nephilim moved across wide areas, and their influence reached far. The giants did not only take food, they took time, labor, and dignity. They treated ordinary people as if they were nothing. A man's work was not honored. A family's safety was not respected. The Nephilim acted as though they were above all rules. If someone refused them, the punishment was swift and frightening. The people learned to keep their heads down and stay silent. Many lived as if every day could become their last peaceful day. As their hunger grew, their demands grew too. The world could not give enough to satisfy them. The giants began to take more than crops and animals. They did things that made human hearts shake with dread. Stories spread from village to village. People spoke in whispers. Travelers avoided open roads. Families stopped lighting fires at night because light could draw attention. Parents warned their children not to wander, not even for a moment. The fear did not stay in one place. It moved like a shadow across the earth. People no longer felt safe in groups, and they felt even less safe alone. Some built stronger walls, others went into forests and mountains. But even the hills felt small when giants walked nearby. A single footstep could be heard from far away. A single shout could silence a whole settlement. The Nephilim also began to harm the natural world. The balance of life was broken. Animals that once roamed freely were hunted down in great numbers. The giants were not careful with what they took. They did not think about tomorrow. They did not think about seasons. They did not think about how the earth needs time to recover. Herds vanished from places where they once were common. Birds fled. Wild creatures became scarce. The land started to feel empty in some areas, as if life itself was being pushed out. And then the giants turned their strength against each other. Pride grew among them. Each wanted to be greater than the others. They did not want to share land or honor. Some gathered followers, others claimed wide areas as their own. Rival groups formed, and tension rose like heat before a storm. What began as rivalry became open conflict. The ground shook with their struggles. Trees fell, hillsides broke apart. People who lived nearby did not know where to run, because danger came from every direction. When the giants fought, it affected everything around them. Their clashes brought destruction not only to their own kind, but also to the places where humans still tried to survive. Homes were crushed, wells were ruined, fields were torn apart. The world was already suffering, and now it suffered more. And as the giants grew more divided, the earth became even more unstable. No one could predict where trouble would rise next. For ordinary humans, life became a long season of worry. Many felt like they were living under a constant weight. They woke up thinking about survival and slept thinking about danger. Some lost hope completely. Others became hard-hearted because fear can change a person. Violence increased among humans too. People copied what they saw. When law breaks down at the top, it breaks down everywhere. Weapons spread. Trust disappeared. Neighbors turned against neighbors. Families argued over food. Many made choices they never would have made in earlier days. Yet even in that darkness, not everyone was the same. A small number of people still tried to live in a clean way before God. They saw what was happening and felt sorrow. One of those was Noah. Noah was not blind to the world around him. He saw that wrong had filled the earth. He saw that people were sinking deeper into evil. He saw that the giants had become a sign of how far things had fallen. He carried grief in his heart because the world was not meant to be like this. The suffering on earth did not stay hidden. It rose upward. The pain of people, the fear, the loss, the spreading wrongdoing, these things became like a loud cry that reached beyond the clouds. The ancient writings say that even the earth itself seemed to cry out, as if creation was asking for an end to what was happening. The ground that had once carried life now carried a heavy record of what had been done upon it. Far above, the holy angels saw what was happening. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael, looked down and understood the weight of the moment. They did not look with excitement. They looked with sorrow and strong concern. They saw how lawlessness had spread. They saw how the world had been pulled away from the path of peace. They saw how the watchers had stepped outside their place, and how the giants had become a great source of ruin. And they understood something important. The earth was heading toward a turning point. Something would have to change, because the world could not continue like this forever. Far above the troubled earth, in the calm and ordered realm of heaven, 4 mighty archangels gathered together. These were Michael, the great protector appointed by God; Gabriel, the one who carries God's messages; Raphael, the one who brings healing; and Uriel, the one who gives understanding. They did not gather out of curiosity, but out of deep concern. Each of them had been watching the earth closely, and what they saw brought great sorrow to their hearts. From their high place, they looked down and saw the world in distress. They saw the land no longer at rest. They saw people living in fear, confusion, and wrongdoing. They saw how the watchers had stepped outside their purpose, and how their actions had spread disorder everywhere. The earth that was once balanced and full of life now felt heavy and strained. The cries of suffering rose upward, not as words, but as a deep weight that reached even the heights of heaven. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was ignored. The archangels felt the pain of what they witnessed. They were not distant or cold observers. They cared deeply for God's creation. They saw that the situation was no longer improving with time. Instead, it was growing worse. Every passing day added more sorrow, more confusion, and more distance between humanity and God's ways. The archangels understood that this could not continue forever. If nothing was done, the earth itself would be ruined beyond repair. Together, they made a decision. They would speak directly before the throne of God. They would not accuse out of anger, but they would speak truthfully about what was happening. They would ask for God's judgment, not for revenge, but for restoration. When they came before God, they bowed in reverence. Each archangel spoke with care and respect. Michael spoke first. He described how Azazel had taught humans things that were never meant for them. Knowledge that should have been given slowly and wisely was released without guidance. This knowledge changed human hearts and pulled them away from humility and obedience. Instead of using wisdom for good, people used it in harmful ways. Then Gabriel spoke. He spoke of Semjaza and the other watchers who left their assigned place. He described how they formed unions with human women and brought into the world beings that did not belong to the natural order. These actions caused great imbalance. The giants that were born changed the course of life on earth. Their presence led to fear, disorder, and widespread suffering. Raphael spoke next. He focused on the condition of humanity itself. He described how people were weighed down by sorrow. Families were broken. Communities were unstable. The harmony between people and the earth was damaged. What once brought joy now brought anxiety. Raphael spoke not just of actions, but of the deep weariness that had settled into the hearts of many. Finally, Uriel spoke with clarity and wisdom. He looked at the whole picture. He spoke of how nature itself had been affected. The balance of seasons, the care of the land, and the rhythm of life had all been disrupted. He spoke of how order had turned into confusion, and how the earth was no longer living as it was designed to live. Together, the archangels placed the matter before God. They acknowledged that God already knew all things. They spoke not to inform him, but to appeal to his justice and mercy. They asked that what had been broken be addressed, because the suffering was great and the damage was spreading. They asked that God step in, because the earth could not heal itself in this state. God listened. He did not interrupt. He did not turn away. He had seen every moment from the beginning. He had watched humanity's choices, the Watcher's rebellion, and the growth of disorder across the world. He had allowed time to pass, giving space for change, but now that time had reached its limit. God felt deep sorrow. His creation was precious to him. He had shaped it with care and purpose. To see it twisted brought pain to his heart. The ancient writings say that God was grieved by how far humanity had fallen. This was not anger alone. It was sorrow mixed with resolve. Yet even in this moment, God did not forget mercy. He saw that not every heart had turned away. He saw Noah, a man who still walked faithfully. Noah did not follow the growing disorder. He lived with integrity, even when surrounded by wrongdoing. God also saw that through Noah, life could continue in a better way. So God spoke with authority and purpose. He declared that the world as it was could not continue. A great cleansing would come, one that would remove what had gone wrong and give the earth a fresh beginning. This cleansing would take the form of a great flood, covering the land and washing away the broken order of that time. But God also made it clear that the cause of the corruption would be addressed directly. The Watchers who had abandoned their role would not escape responsibility. The giants who had brought such imbalance would not continue. Judgment would be careful, complete, and just. God then gave clear instructions to his archangels. Each was given a role to carry out. Their tasks were not random. Each one was part of a larger plan that would both remove what was harmful and preserve what was good. The faithful would be protected, the source of disorder would be restrained, and the future would be guarded. At that moment, the course of history changed. The age shaped by the Watchers and the giants was coming to an end. Heaven had spoken. The earth would soon feel the effects. What had begun in secret rebellion would now be brought to a close by the will of the Almighty. When the voices in heaven grew quiet, God spoke. All of heaven listened. His words were calm, clear, and full of purpose. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was spoken without meaning. What God declared would shape the future of the earth and bring an end to the age that had gone so far off course. God first turned his attention to Uriel, the angel who brings understanding and light. Uriel was given a task of great importance. God told him to go to Noah, a man who still walked in the right way. Noah lived quietly among people who no longer cared about goodness, yet his heart remained steady. God chose him not because he was powerful, but because he was faithful. Uriel was sent to warn Noah about what was coming. He was to tell Noah that the earth would soon be covered by rising waters. This was not meant as a punishment for Noah, but as a way to protect him. God instructed Uriel to explain how Noah could remain safe and how life could continue through him. Noah was told to prepare a large wooden vessel, strong and sealed, where he, his family, and living creatures could be sheltered. This task would take time, effort, and trust. When Uriel delivered this message, Noah listened. The idea of such a flood had never crossed his mind, but he did not argue. He believed God. Day after day, Noah and his sons worked, cutting wood, shaping beams, and building exactly as they were instructed. People around them continued their lives without concern, but Noah stayed focused. While the world moved deeper into disorder, Noah prepared quietly for what was to come. After this, God spoke to Raphael, the angel connected with healing and restoration. Raphael was given responsibility over Azazel, one of the Watchers whose actions had caused great harm. Azazel had spread knowledge without wisdom and encouraged pride, conflict, and excess among humans. God commanded Raphael to remove Azazel from the world so his influence would no longer reach the earth. Raphael was told to place Azazel in a remote and sealed place, far from people, far from light, and far from the surface of the world. There, Azazel would remain separated and unable to guide or mislead anyone again. This was not done in anger, but in justice. The harm had gone far enough. Raphael was also instructed to help the earth recover from the damage Azazel's teachings had caused. The land, the people, and the balance of life needed time to heal. Next, God turned to Gabriel, the angel often sent to act when change must come swiftly. Gabriel was given responsibility over the giants, the children of the Watchers. These beings had grown beyond control and had disrupted life wherever they lived. God declared that they would no longer remain as they were. Their time was coming to an end. God did not speak of long lives for them or of a future place among humanity. Instead, He allowed their own pride